All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. Hope you'll enjoy this video. We're gonna have a fun time here. We're looking at the finished painting. Gorgeous lighthouse, the Isle of Madame Lighthouse. This is in Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island. So we're gonna actually go step by step. Each technique that we're gonna use, we're gonna explain. We're gonna go over all of the steps as we go, as far as how we're going to start this painting, what to start first, and then how we're going to finish the painting, the details. We're going to get into the drawing, how to simplify this drawing. If you're a little bit, if you're just a touch needing some more practice on your drawing skills, no problem. We can draw this in 2 dimensions, so we're going to go over that too in this video. So this is the finished painting. You can hit the pause button and work right from this, or you can keep going forward until we're done with the sketch and the drawing, and you can work from the drawing. And then also you can watch it full through the video and then go back to the beginning again and then leave it on this part here and pause it, and you can do the painting from this finished painting. And we'll actually just do one thing here. I noticed I did not complete something here that I thought I needed to. Let's see, what did we have that I needed to complete here? Well, there was something I thought I needed to add to this, but I think I'm going to leave this as it is. And all right, have fun with this one, and we'll see you just in a few seconds. Okay, we just saw the finished painting, everyone, and I hope you'll work from that. So you can use the finished painting to work from, so you can draw from that, do your drawing, and as well as your painting. Or you can kind of wait on this drawing here, watch it full through the video that we're doing here, and then you can, once this drawing is finished, we're starting it right here, right now. I just did a little bit of a starting point here. We'll kind of discuss what we just did here, but I just started a few minutes ahead of, things, so that we're not, I want to make sure I'm moving quickly through my videos. I don't want to waste all of your time. So essentially, you can pause the video on the very beginning of the video where the finished painting is, and you can just work totally from that. So I would say, the best thing would be to watch the video full through, see how everything is done, and then go back to the beginning and then pause it on the finished painting. And then you can draw from that and paint from that, and it'll almost be like you're there, or you have the photograph, or you have the internet, something on the internet you've looked up, a picture, whatever it is, or you can even look up this lighthouse online. It's the Isle of Madame Lighthouse in Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. Beautiful, beautiful place. And this lighthouse is just gorgeous. It's not your traditional lighthouse, where you have your, tall lighthouse. This is more a smaller lighthouse on top, an actual light on top of a building, on top of a house. So it's interesting, and we're going to do this and have a great time of it. And so let's continue here. I did this quick light sketch. So I did the rock and island formation of Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. So you see how I did a contour drawing and just kept looking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I look at my photograph, I go a little bit, I look back at my photograph, I look down at my paper, I look back at my photograph. So I'm constantly looking back and forth at my subject matter, just making sure I'm somewhat on the mark as far as, my lines and these hills here. And it does look pretty good. So we have the island here now completed, and there's some rock formations over here. So let's get those rock formations in. And these are really the hard rock formations that jut up from the sea. And then more rock formations over here. So these are some of the really hard rocks along the coastal area of this island. And we will put some, this will denote little small rocks and crevices and things as I tap on there, just so I know when I go to paint. But I'll be looking at my reference photograph too as well. But I like to just make sure I'm kind of, you know, getting a good feel for my drawing, what the subject matter is. There's a little shore in here, a little inlet here with some sand, like a little sandy beach here. I could put that in if I want. And that looks pretty good. And now we're going to go in and let's level some area off here. And this is going to be the, you can change a little bit, enhance the drawing. You don't have to go exactly perfect to what you see. You can change things around a little bit. So now let's start on our lighthouse. And I'm just going to carefully do a light sketch first, preliminary light sketch, because if I was just to try to start in one place and start going around the whole drawing in a contour drawing style fashion, for a lighthouse like this, I would have a little bit of a hard time with that. If I'm doing flowers or maybe some clouds, you know what I'm saying? Clouds, flowers, things like that, you know, you can kind of flow with that and do some contour drawing. But when you're doing structures and things, you have to almost do a little bit of more careful lines. So that's what I'm going to do here. But once you get really excellent at contour drawing, you can just do this lighthouse contour drawing style and not worry about it. But, you know, I still want to take my time and make sure I'm getting the angles correct. I'm hoping it looks a little bit large, this lighthouse I'm making right now, compared to the island. So maybe I've gone already a little bit off the beaten track here, but that's okay. You know, perfection is not what we're looking for. So I'm going to transfer this line down. That goes down like that. And I'm hoping you can see that. I think you can. That line there. And this is a tiny bit of an angle, not much though. And that goes down there like that. Then we have a small roof here. And those windows over here are even with the bottom of this roof, like this. The edge of this roof eave, so this is the eave of this roof here, the small roof, is in line with this line here. So just so I know that gives me a good reference point. Then we go up a little bit, over. That's the other, this is the gable end of this roof here. And then we're going to go down. And then we're going to go across. And this is on pillars. This is on some posts. Like so. And then we have another window here. Over here we have another window. And it's small because it's trailing off in the distance. As you can see, this wall of the lighthouse here on this actual structure, the lighthouse itself, the house, it's trailing off into the distance, so this window is going to be thin, kind of a small little thin rectangle like that. And then these windows over here are more, they're full rectangles like that. And then there's another small window over here like that. So take your time doing your drawing, kind of look at everything, size it up, look where the, see if you can see any level lines that go across, like all these windows. So here, at this point of the roof, you'll see this level line goes all the way across and lines up with the bottom of this eave of this roof here. The windows are pretty much even across here. We have another window up here, which is the same, in the same plumb line as the window below. So the window up top is the same plumb line as that one. And this one is off a little bit on its own here, like that. Okay, and then we'll go up and we'll do our roof. And then this roof has a lookout on top where the lighthouse is, so we could put that there. And there's some railings around it, so let's do the railings. And then we have the light itself. And sometimes if you see something you want to change, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. That's all. I'm just going to make the pyramid on top for the conical roof for the lighthouse, like that. And there we have it. So that's really the roof. This roof kind of goes down over here, so we do have a little bit of an angle there, like that. So I added that little bit of angle over here on this other side of the roof. You can keep it more simple and keep it more... If you can imagine, I'll just try to see if I can. You can take this lighthouse and make it two-dimensional. So you would just take it and make it two-dimensional like so. If you think you're going to have an issue with the angles and so forth, no problem. Just do a two-dimensional rendering of this. So instead, and then here you'll turn this. So it's almost like you're taking the building and turning it this way a little bit. Does that make sense? So that it's two-dimensional. Then you have your roof here. You have your roof up here, like so. And your lighthouse up here, like that. And then you have your windows. And if you keep that two-dimensional, that'll save you some headaches and some problems. If you really don't want to hassle with all the angles and things like that. So always shift gears if you need to. Does that make sense? Shift gears if you think you're going to have an issue with some angles, no problem. Or if you think you want to go for it and go for the gusto and do the angles, just practice it a few times before you go in onto your watercolor paper and do it. So you might take some scrap printer paper, just your regular office printer paper, take some of that and sketch it out a few different times, maybe 2-3 times. Just draw out the angles, get the angles. And then, we have the angle up here. This one goes off like this a little bit and then down like that a little bit. It kind of has that little bit of a trailing effect. It's trailing downwards a little bit like this. And then this too as well. This roof is going to have that angle over here where you see the gable over here on this side a little bit. So you can work that out on some scrap paper first if you want to try those angles. They do look really beautiful. But if you don't want to do that, no problem. Just totally go for it. Use the two-dimensional approach. Take the drawing and just look at it and say, all right, how would this look if I didn't have the three-dimensional look of this side of the building? And then you just figure it out and say, okay, well, it's just going to be a straight roof like this over here. You won't see the angle over here. Same thing over here. You're not going to see that angle. Does that make sense? So have a blast at this. Don't stress over it. If you're still working on your drawing techniques and learning about, three-dimensional drawing and, using those techniques with, all the various techniques there are with drawing, if you don't want to hassle with that right now, no big deal. Just go for it. Do the two-dimensional, 2D. That's all. Skip the 3D, the three-dimensional. Not a problem. can have just as much fun and have a great time painting this, drawing this, and completing the painting, and it'll look great, just as good as if it's three-dimensional. I'm just working from a picture and a photograph, so I'm trying to capture what I see there. But again, if I'm out in the field and I might want to do a quick sketch or painting, I might do that. I might make it two-dimensional. Okay, so we're going to continue on here, but before we do, let's take a quick break. We've done a lot of work already. We did the drawing, and now we're completed with that. We'll start our painting. And I just want to mention, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Have fun. Come here every week. We're always working every week. We do every type of painting you can imagine with watercolors. We do watercolors here every week, whether it's seascapes, landscapes, lighthouses, flowers, still life, portrait paintings, figures. We do landscape paintings. We do everything here, all watercolor. Come on by. If you don't, if you hit the subscribe button and you hit the notification button right next to it, just below here on this video, if you hit those buttons, at least you'll get the notification that we're making a new video and you can check it out. And if it's something you don't like, you can wait till next week or the week after to find something you really, really like to, work on and draw and paint. But I think most times you can work on everything we're doing here. It'll just make your skills better for watercolors. So if you can practice all the techniques we do here, the methods, you'll be much better off. So, okay, we'll be right back. I'm just going to take a quick break and we'll get started with the painting. All right, we're getting back into things here. We're actually completed with our sketch. We just did our contour drawing. We did our lighthouse, our island here, beautiful Isle Madame Lighthouse in Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia. What I'll do right now is I'll take my eraser. It's a kneaded eraser, so these are really great. Most of you know what these are. Most of you use them. They don't make any crumbs, so you can lightly lift up any lines. So I just want to lift up some of my sketch lines here. This lighthouse is pretty much white with like a red roof, like a dark burgundy, brownish red roof. So I wanted to do that. Lift up some lines. There we go. And we'll start out with the darks. Let's start out with the darks for our painting. And you can use a small brush here. This is this is like an 8x8 format watercolor painting, 8x8. And let's make some dark here, dark mix, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of warm in there too. Make a nice dark. And there's no water here. I'm not using any water. I just dipped my brush in the water bucket that I have and then dried off the paint a little bit on my apron. So I use the apron all the time when I paint. So you can see my apron here. I'm constantly dabbing off the water on my apron. And then I go in and I mix up my paint mixes here. So hardly any water at all. Almost just straight paint really here for our darkest darks. So that's something in watercolor. I always mention it. I hope everyone's getting this. When you follow my channel, there's certain things that I do all the time, and many of you I know are already way advanced and you've been using the techniques that I use, and that's great. But some of you that are maybe newer, you maybe don't have that, you haven't kind of figured out some of the things that I do. One of the things I do a lot is I use very little water when I'm making my mixes. So for the darkest darks in this, for our windows, you wouldn't want anything other than straight paint. So I'm using French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, nice mix of darks, and warm and cool. Cool is blue, warm is brown, and burnt sienna. And that's what, I always say is you have to have moist paints when you're painting here. So if you're learning my techniques, you'll always know you have to have those really soft, moist, fresh squeeze tube paints. I have many videos on this. If you just look up Chris Petri, watercolor palette, anything palette, Chris Petri palette. I have like 10 videos on it, so you'll see how I keep my paints fresh. Basically, I put when I'm done at the end of the day, I put my palette in a plastic bag with a little moist paper towel, and that actually will keep your paints just like this, nice, fresh, fresh and moist. So those are some things I do all the time. You have to kind of, if you're going to do my techniques and my methods, you have to really follow the methods that I use to capture the same techniques and look of your paintings. So here you can see I'm just dabbing in lightly the windows of this lighthouse with my dark, no water, just straight tube paint. Like so. And there's some darks under this area here. We said this is on pedestals, or I mean on a columns. So there's posts underneath this area of the lighthouse. And there's a little bit of a post here like that. And what else do we have here? Okay, so I'm looking for darkest darks. So now for my lighthouse, that looks good. I've got my darkest darks in there. Maybe under here, there's a little bit there. And I'm using a very small brush with a good point. You can see that point there is really good. You can also use like a needlepoint brush if you want. I always use my needlepoint brush for fine lines, so I could also use my needlepoint brush to capture these small details here if I wanted to, but I feel pretty comfortable with this right now, but I'll probably use my needlepoint brush in a little bit. And okay, so we have our windows very carefully. Like again, maybe these windows, I could do them with this. It might be a little safer to use a needlepoint brush to do these really small windows. It's easy to get outside the lines a little bit there and make the windows too big or so forth. Okay, so now, let's see here. There's some shadow under there. Let's do that. You can kind of see I'm looking at my photo. You'll work from the finished painting. That looks really good. Okay, now we're going to take that same dark, maybe add a little green to it. I see some green in the shoreline there. And let's just add some darks here under the island here. There's all rocks and darks here. Let's get those in. I'm carefully just holding my brush perfectly parallel, like this. And I'm getting in those darks right along the shoreline here. And I would make it a little bit, I wouldn't just go straight across with a line. You can see here I'm breaking things up, making things, there's all fine rocks here, so maybe I'm going to do some rock type tap. So I'm tapping on some little dots. You can splash a little. Maybe we'll do some splashing. Let's take some, we add a little more water to this, not too much. And if they go up a little bit, that's no big deal. And if you have an issue here and there, no big deal. You can lift up like that. Anything that's all. Don't worry about it. more darks, straight paint, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, sap green. Okay. This area comes out a little bit forward here. And then I take a damp brush with a little bit of water in it and just run it along here. And that just kind of like gives me the beginnings of my water here. If I just carefully take some of this water and put it up into the darker darks we just made. And when you do that, it filters down and it reactivates the paint. The darker paint's up top here in this top portion, and it flows down into the water here, the bay. And then we can continue. Let's keep this one light and fun. Let's keep using the same brush, same colors. This is like a painting where we're not going to use too many bright colors, too many exciting, vibrant colors. We're using more of the grayed down colors that we started with. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna. That's all I'm using here. And and a little bit of sap green. A little bit of the green in there. And more blue. I think some cerulean blue would look good. Now, if I'm using cerulean blue, I'm going to put it everywhere. So you'll see, I'm going to use my cerulean blue everywhere now. Cerulean blue is beautiful. It looks great with water, ocean type colors. Like that. Maybe a little purple even too. Let's add a little purple to that. Now I said I wasn't going to use vibrant colors, but we are going to mix in some other colors here to make things look exciting. And I'm just going to keep the same brush. I'm not going to change brushes at this point. I'm going to leave this the same. There we go. A little bit of white paper left for sparkles of light. Also, burnt umber again, French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, sap green. Same colors, green. And then we're going to see if we can get some I added that color in a little bit there, and then I go through with some damp water. For a little bit of that reflection of the lighthouse. I think that looks okay. A little more reflections of the shoreline here. There we go. Then let's go in and a little bit of raw umber. So use some raw umber, some burnt umber. Some blue. And again, we're not really making any changes to our colors now. We're going to stick with the same colors. Now here, a little more green, maybe some chromium of oxide. And then back to the darker darks, burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. A little bit of yellow ochre here. And I try to add in the colors if I can. Probably better off not to add in any colors once you finish up your watercolors here, your ocean here, your bay colors here. Better off to just let that be and not add in anything and let that dry 100%. I sort of went in there. I should have maybe not have done that. But you can kind of see everything is looking good. We are close to finishing. Let's take another break here, let everything dry. This is another key that I always mention with your watercolors. Work a little bit, then let things dry. You'll find that you'll have a lot easier of a time letting your watercolors dry a little bit. Does that make sense? So do a section, let it dry, come back, take a break, come back, work on a little more. So here, let's take a break. We've done the island and the water. Let's take a break. We'll work on the lighthouse a little more. We'll take another break, and then we'll do the sky. We'll finish up with the sky, and you'll see how fun and easy the sky is. It's going to really be a beautiful sky, simple, and it's going to blend right in and make everything really look fantastic. Okay, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We'll start working on the roof of the lighthouse. Okay, we are back in business here. We're finishing up our watercolor. We're actually, quite a ways along here. The most detailed part of the composition in this painting is actually the shoreline, as you can see. Does that make sense? A lot of the rocks and little details we did, and the actual island formations here. When we were actually away, I did add a little darker wash over here to this part of the island here. Like that. I did add some darker darks, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. Like so. And that kind of makes a really good transition from the rocks and the hill over here, more of that steeper hill and slope over here, to the more flat areas here where there's the grass and so forth, up here where the house is, the lighthouse. So let's keep that in mind. We just wanted to make a note of that. So I'll take a little bit of this mixture that we've been mixing, basically French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, with a little bit of the raw sienna and yellow ochre over here. And we'll just do a little bit of the house here. there's a little bit of a light wash on the house. It's like a little bit of a so I'll infuse a little bit of the cerulean blue in that color as well. This is over here like the same. And I noticed the light might be a little brighter over here, so I'm going to leave that bright white paper over here on this side. And over here too, we might leave that bright white paper. So sometimes if you're working and you're looking at photographs and working from that or working from a painting, sometimes you can change things a little bit. So in the painting, I mean the photograph I'm looking at right now, it might not be pure white paper over here and over here, but I'm going to leave it white paper for myself because I figure it looks good. I think it'll look good if I leave that white paper there. And let's start working on the roof areas. That's like a brownish, a little bit of raw umber, burnt sienna. It's kind of a darker tone though, maybe a little bit of. So again, we're using the same colors, a little bit darker there. So this side's a little darker. I'll rinse out my brush and use a damp brush to lighten it up just a little bit. And I'm going to be really careful not to, I'm going to try not to touch the wash we just did underneath it. So you can see I left a little bit of white paper there. Do you see that? That little bit of white paper there I left there because I don't want to have this brownish red roof here blend and start flowing into the side of the lighthouse here. So let me do that. Let me make sure I leave that little bit of a white line. We can come back in a little bit and finish that line up to the side of the house, the white, more whitish color part of the lighthouse. Over here, there's a lighter tonal value. So that's lighter there. This is darker. So maybe I'll make a little bit of a darker, just a bit of a darker line there. And the top of the lighthouse is dark too. And a little bit of light over this side. Okay, we're really making great progress here. Everything is looking pretty good. And I'm going to do this small rooftop here, the shingles on the roof over here. That looks good. This is pretty fine detailed work here. If you paint this larger than an 8x8, you'll have an easier time. So if you went with like 12 by 16 or 16 by 20, if you make a larger sheet of paper, you'll have an easier time getting some of these details in. I'm using a very small brush here, as you can see in it. That helps too, using a really small brush to get in the details. And we can also use a little bit of titanium white, which we will use at the very, very finish of the painting. We'll use a little tiny bit of titanium white to maybe straighten up a little bit of these windows. You can see my windows got a little bit blotchy. Can you see that? So the window's got a little blotchy on me here on this one. So a little bit of titanium white with a small needlepoint brush, and we can fix that top of that window up a little bit and on the sides. The rest looks okay. I'm going to use my needlepoint brush now. I'm going to get a few more details over here. So underneath this, a couple of the timbers underneath this. This is like a little bit of a addition on this lighthouse, maybe, where they added an addition and they put posts and timbers underneath, and they built a small addition on this, probably. And we'll use some of our blue, cerulean blue, purple. We're going to make a couple shadows. So we have some blue, maybe a little bit of that mix too there. And we're just going to go underneath here for this eave of the roof. Oh, this is a rake edge of the roof. Maybe there's a shadow under there like that. There's also a shadow under here. Let's carefully put that in. Those make a big difference, those little bit of shadows underneath the roofs here. And there's also a little bit of a shadow under this here. That should look fine once it dries. If you think it's too much, you can always dab a little. So I'll dab a little bit too, maybe just to add some more burnt sienna, burnt umber, touch of the blue, French ultramarine blue. For that roof there. And a little bit of the darker darks over here on this side of the roof, so that this is a little bit lighter over here on this side. The light is coming from this side, so if we can make that a little darker there, that looks a little better. This is pretty dark over here. And a little darker over here too. I'm going to make a little more dark on the top of the lighthouse, so we can do some more details. Now we're doing some details here. Sometimes you might wait till you do the sky wash, actually. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wait till I'm finished with the sky wash to do some of the ornamentation up top here. Does that make sense? We'd rather do our sky wash and push our sky wash a little bit into this section here where the light is, the actual light of the lighthouse. So it has that feel of like you're seeing through the lighthouse, the actual light portion of the lighthouse, and you're seeing the sky color. So if we put in some fine details right now into this lighthouse area, if we put the railings up here and the framing of the glass of the light itself, if we went to try to go in and put sky wash in there after we did that detail, it would smudge and reactivate the small fine lines we're going to do. So let's let that go. So we're going to wait for our final details of the light and the railings on the top of the lighthouse. We're going to wait till we do our sky wash. Does that make sense? This way, once the sky wash completely dries 100%, you can use a blow dryer when you're done, or you can let it dry for an hour. then you can go in and do your final details on this. And we're going to show you how we're going to do that, okay? Fantastic. Let's take a break. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please give it a shot. Subscribe here. We're making videos every week. We do all kinds of interesting watercolor paintings in all different formats, methods, techniques, and styles. So I know you'll be happy if you come along and join along every week with us here. You're going to learn something new every time. I guarantee you that. And we're going to have fun as well. And so if you hit that subscribe button, you're going to be alerted each week when we have a new video coming out, okay? All right, we'll come right back and we'll finish up with our sky wash and final details to the lighthouse. Okay, so we're back now. We're finished up with our pretty much everything, our island, our water, our lighthouse. Right now we're going to work on the sky washes. So what I will do is I will move up to a larger brush. I think I'll get some fresh water here. I think this water should be fine. The sky's going to be a little bit overcast, a little bit gray. So we're going to mix the same colors we used for the lighthouse and the shore, and pretty much all the colors we used here we're going to use in the sky. I will take a small... I'm going to take my pencil and just make a quick indication of the distant shoreline, which runs about here. So there's a distant shoreline here. This makes it even more interesting, the lighthouse painting here we're doing, because now we have a distant shoreline here. That's going to look really great. So let's get our sky wash in, and then we can add that distant shoreline after we do the sky wash. So the sky wash will be purple, which is ultramarine violet, and cerulean blue, and we'll mix up some of this here, the green and the French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, a little bit of green. And we'll just mix up all those colors. And that should give us a good wash. And remember, we put it on darker, so let's go darker than what we think, because we know it's going to lighten up. Once the watercolor washes dry, they're going to be lighter. So let's make sure we go dark enough. But it's not extremely, it's a light. Let's do a graded wash. All we're doing is we make it darker up top. Then we take water and just take water from the water bucket, and we just flow this down, being careful not to flood the area where the lighthouse is, or the light of the lighthouse is. And we'll go right down over the and that's all we do. We just take this wash and bring it right down. We keep a tissue handy, just to dab up a little bit of paint along the hill here, so that we don't flood that darker wash and reactivate it. And we can do some lines quickly. And I just carefully make sure I get all of the sky areas. And I go a little darker there, so I make sure I kind of highlight this area with a little darker wash. Okay, that looks fine. I'm covering these white areas of paper. It's very overcast and gray. I hope you have that feeling on this painting. You feel it's like a nice, cool, like kind of gray day, a little bit of, sun, kind of maybe hazy, cloudy. You have that shore type of feeling along the ocean. And that's all we have to do is just really stick with our game plan of getting the water in the island here first and the lighthouse second. And we do our sky wash last. And this is water here and some distant hills, but we have to let this dry 100% before we go back in and do our distant hills, which will be like a purplish blue where the pencil line is, where we created this pencil line. And then that'll be it. We'll be 100% complete. So let's come back. We're going to let this dry. I might use the blow dryer just to quicken the pace here a little, and we'll finish this up. All right, let's finish up our last bit of details here. We're going to do a distant hills here behind the lighthouse in this ocean area. So we're going to take the same washes we were using before. And then just bring those up. We use all the colors we were using before. Okay, that light wash we just brought up from here. Then we're going to go with some blue, cerulean blue, purple, a touch of raw umber. And we're going to try to capture that distant hill. I just try to fade it in with the water. Maybe tap a few times with the tissue just to make it a little misty and soft. There we go. go. And then we can do our final details here with the, we'll go with the burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. Pick up a little bit of water, burnt sienna for our dark. And then we roll our needlepoint brush around, we roll it, spin it, so we get a nice fine point. And then we do some of our details. And if you go over a little bit, see if we can lift it up. Okay, and if we can't, we use a little bit of white. And we're going to do some burnt umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber. That's a little bit more of a pyramid. I think the shape is pretty close to what the photograph is. It might be a little more, the cone might be a little smaller. This is a little bit larger of a cone. I went a little bit large there, but that's okay. That'll work. Then we'll get our white paint, titanium white in a tube with a little bit of yellow ochre in the top. A little bit of yellow ochre in the top of the paint. And then we can just I'll put a little bit over that brush stroke we went over there. What else can we do here? Maybe a little bit of light catching there. That looks pretty good. I did notice a boat, a small boat in the water. Let's see if we can put that boat in. There, a fishing boat. A couple darker darks here. And that looks pretty good. All right, I hope we had fun. Again, please feel free to subscribe. The button's below, right below the video, and you also have a notification bell right next to the subscribe button. This way, you're alerted each time our new videos come out each week. And again, we're doing watercolors, everything watercolors here. We had a fun time, and we'll see you soon. Everyone, have fun. Give this one a try. It's really just enjoyable. Gorgeous feel of a nice overcast day, some clouds, a little bit of mystery sunshine there on the side of the lighthouse, some gorgeous distant mountains, This nice island here looking good with some rocks, a fishing boat perhaps here. Maybe we'll just go in and do one little more bit of, I'll blot this up just a little bit. Add a little bit of a shadow under there like that. A fishing boat out there. Maybe we'll add a little mast on top here. Like that. And that's looking good. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.